Oh, hi, still setting up. Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com, full service CX and UX consultancy. And I didn't turn on all my lights today, so sorry that my background's a little fuzzy. But I was enjoying the nice sunshine coming through the window, and I figured maybe we don't need all the lights today. What do you think? This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I am here for an hour to take absolutely any questions you have about CX or UX or anything in the world that I might actually have knowledge in. You can ask those questions here in the chat. I'm monitoring the YouTube chat and the LinkedIn chat as well as tweets. And you can also send them anonymously. If you don't want anyone to know what you're asking, you can send it to deltacx.link/ask. I am still setting up, but I will be keeping an eye on all of these questions as they come in. So please feel free to ask any questions you have. This is your time. I usually do this show at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. In fact, I do it at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I'll be doing it today at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. But we had a request from people well east of me. Oh, sorry, east is that way. Well east of me to also offer once a month an earlier one so that it would fit their time zone. So think Southeast Asia and Australia and things like that. So good morning and good afternoon and good evening to everybody there. Hi, Udipta. So I'm still setting up all the pieces that run the show because I got carried away telling my boyfriend some stories. Hey, R for Everything. We haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? Great. R for Everything has our first question. Let me copy and paste that for the YouTube description. All questions will be in the YouTube description so that they're easy to search and find. All right, let's put that question up, and it's not coming up, so I didn't turn on all the right pieces. I'm still sitting up. Hold on. Let me turn on YouTube stuff on the screen. But yes, please keep sending in questions because we only have one right now. And so it is a low wait time for those of you who would like questions answered. All right, here it is. Bing. Okay, so what can I do in a usability test when a task depends on a previous task and I'm testing a live app and the first one failed? Do you mean they failed on the first task? First of all, that's great. It's great to do testing and find people failing on the tasks because then that's great information. And then you want to make sure that hopefully you're finding out where that failure was, whether it was more of the concept and idea or more of the execution of the idea. Now, what do you do if you have kind of a usability test and there's a two-step or two-task process? You know, maybe they're supposed to register first and then do a thing, and they didn't quite do the registration right. Now, can they still do the thing? Or maybe there's some sort of onboarding and then they're supposed to do a thing. So what I typically do for those is I typically prepare my prototype so that it can handle both situations. I will prepare a prototype. And now, again, you said they're in the live app. That's a little bit harder because I don't know. Can you tell me whether or not people have to have logged in? Or is this something they can do without logging in? If this has to do with the login, I'm normally, now obviously if it's a prototype, I'll build it so that both, I'll just answer it both ways so that it helps everybody. If it's a prototype, I try to build it both ways so that whether you got the first task right or not, I can always dump you in the second task, and the second task assumes the first one went well or occurred. If it is the live app, then what I typically try to do, it's hard because you have to now navigate someone to a place that they weren't naturally going to end up in. If it requires them to log in, make sure you have a dummy account, username and password. So for some reason the real registration failed, you can say, okay, thanks for completing that task. You don't say they did it wrong. You just say, thanks for completing that task. For our next task, I'm going to need you to log in. So let me give you a dummy username and password so I can direct you to where in the app you'll do the next task. R for Everything says task 1, find a menu item. Let's put this up on the screen. Task 2, complete the action in the item. Okay, so it sounds like the navigation maybe wasn't as clear as it could be, and you asked people to do a task, and they could have done the task from the menu, but they never found it. Does that sound right? So that if that's the case, then chances are you would have to find a way to say, okay, thanks, that task is over. Now for the next task, I'm going to need to lead you to a certain part of our app to do this task. To get there, I need you to please hit the menu button and choose this thing. Now some people will go, oh, that's what I should have done in the last task, and they'll kind of put it together. And some people are not going to put it together, and they'll go, okay, I'm there, what do you want me to do? But I think that you probably will have to just lead them to the second task. I wouldn't avoid doing the second task just because they didn't finish the first. I would certainly be showing in my report and with video clips that these people couldn't easily find this in the menu, either because they didn't look for the menu, or they couldn't find the menu, or when they opened the menu, what they were supposed to do didn't strike them as, whatever wording we used didn't match them. So, and then I would probably lead people to the next task so that they have a chance to try the next task. Does that help? Am I going in the right direction for what you're asking? I wasn't totally sure. Let me know, because you're here live, and you're about 26 seconds delayed, so we can see what you think and get your response. And of course, if anybody has a question they want to pile on top of that or ask a follow-up question to, all questions are welcome. So please do send in your questions. This is Office Hours, Ask Me Anything. And of course, you can also, if you have questions about the stream, you can also check out deltacx.com/links. That's where I've got all the information about what the heck is going on this show and this channel. So there you go. And R for Everything says, great, thank you. Well, cool. Happy to have helped. And, if you have another follow-up question or fresh question, let's take it on, because I'm here for an hour, and that was my only question. We did get a few questions come in for today's later office hours, which again is in about 8.5 hours, so some of you will be sleeping. But I will be answering some questions there. Oh, I'm having a crazy hair day. Let's fix that. And yeah, let's see if I can fix that. I do tend to have fuzzy flyaway hair. That's a little better. And you can really tell when you're in front of a green screen and it's like, poof. Yep, I've had it my whole life. Does anybody else have that? Like little pieces that are just fuzzy and short no matter what? Must be a common problem, or so I hope. Or could just be me. I'm a mutant. Who can say? Anyway, I'm just going to hang out here and see if people have any questions. All questions are welcome. Always better if they're about CX and UX, but I do offer to take any questions on anything I have knowledge in. R for Everything. Should I suggest a recommendation for each usability issue I found in usability testing? Okay, and our Greek friend we will get to in a moment. Oh, my hair looks great. Thank you. Yeah, I've wacky hair. I've always had wacky hair. I should pull out like my childhood school pictures where it's just like, woo. But thank you. You're very sweet. So R for Everything, let me copy and paste that to what will become the YouTube description. So should I suggest a recommendation for each usability issue I found in usability testing? I normally expect a research report to make a general suggestion. So for example, your suggestion might be, the terminology in the menu didn't appear to match the way the users think of this thing, so we need to find better terminology. You can suggest specific terminology if the user said, you can say, well, the user seemed to say this a lot, perhaps this. But I always warn people against very, very specific advice. If you are not the designer and you're not the copywriter, then make sure your suggestions are more high level, like, we need to rename our menu items because they don't match the way the users perceive these things. or the like. So I do like your idea. Let's put it back up on the screen. I do recommend giving some sort of recommendations or suggestions, but I often suggest high level unless you could tell from the usability testing if there's something really strong that this should have been. But maybe that'll work for wording, but I would never want to see UX researchers prescribing the exact design. Like, people had trouble with this task, so this button should be here and you should do this. We don't want to do that if you're not the designer on the project as well. So I would say recommendations, yes, generally more high level. So there you go. We saw Dr. Giles's question, but it went away because he's on LinkedIn. And so let's put his up on the screen. Hold on. Oh, and I see we're getting an anonymous question in. I will field that one next. Please hold. Okay, so Dr. Giles says, "Hey, Debbie." Hey, Dr. Giles. "What is your advice for someone wanting to work in UX strategy and management?" Gosh, I could write a book about that. I would say that I could also say go to Interaction 22 and take my upcoming workshop on transforming toward customer centricity, since I'll be giving away some of my secrets there. But I think that it depends, because for some people, working in UX strategy and management has been a kind of path to that. So many people were individual contributors, and they worked their way up to lead or team lead or principal, where those jobs are still individual contributor, but they tend to start being strategic. And so they're strategic typically at the project level. So you might be looking at what we're going to do, the timing of it, the resources needed, overarching UX vision for this particular feature or project. Maybe you're creating that roadmap or a more detailed plan. So that is part of strategy. And certainly that's usually part of managing people. Very often, team lead jobs come with some line management. So again, it's an early opportunity for people who are working their way up to, if you can get a team lead job, then you are probably doing some early line management and doing some things strategically at the project level. So I think that's a great way to practice those skills. You get some coaching if you have a good coach on this, and then work your way up later to manager and higher leadership. For people who do not have that opportunity, for example, I hadn't had that opportunity. I was always a contractor, so I was never able to work my way up in a company to be promoted to manager, though I had been team lead. That's a little bit more of a jump, and that's a harder jump to make. And we've seen that also with Darren and Dr. Nick, that many of us have been individual contributors so long, and in some cases we haven't done things that looked strategic or managerial, and it was hard to make the jump, and you end up having to find the person who will give you the chance, usually someone who already knows you. Can you narrow down your question a little bit? Because I'm worried that I'm not answering this correctly, but maybe you can help me out here and tell me if I'm going in the right direction for what you're asking, because it could be very broad. Meanwhile, while you tell me that, I'm going to go chase down our anonymous question, which I have to open up in another window so I can prepare that for to be answered next. Okay. What a great question. Thank you for the anonymous question. We'll answer that one after we help out Dr. Giles. So Dr. Giles, if you're still watching live, give me more details. Oh, you switched to YouTube. You've been answering my question very well, thank you. Okay, great. Just checking. Didn't want to get that wrong. So yeah, if you don't have that clear path to being promoted into management, you're typically looking for that company who will see your past work, especially if it has some team leadership where you can start to show some of those managerial behaviors. I've been doing UX strategy for a few years now, but not getting enough support, says Dr. Giles. Yeah, so I think that's an opportunity for coaching. Again, I could be coaching you. There might be other people who can be great coaches out there. So really depends from there, because again, a lot of companies assume once you're at team lead and manager level, you don't need a lot of support. But it's interesting because we've been having some internal conversations at the company where I'm working now, and there are one or two people who we're thinking in the future we might promote. And the question was like, are they really ready for the level we're thinking of them for? And my answer was, we have to coach and support them. Like, we can't just dump them in these jobs, hope they're ready and hope they're going to do it well enough, and then see what happens. I want to make sure that if we do give people some chances, that we are coaching and supporting them, and we have to make sure we've made that time for that. So yeah, there aren't a lot of resources on this topic. I'm hoping something I'm writing might speak to this a bit, but chances are what I'm writing may or may not match this. But I heard in our Slack channel, don't forget you can join our Slack channel through deltacx.com/links. It's totally free community. Someone mentioned that Frank Spillers was working on a book about UX management, and I know a lot of people like and respect him. I don't know him personally, but I think he learned a lot from Larry Marine in his early days in the 90s. So he could be a very good source. And I think when that book comes out, a lot of us will be checking it out. And Dr. Giles adds, what's helped me develop my knowledge and skills was to work with a framework, have a structured approach to strategy work so I can measure success and demonstrate ROI. Yeah, and there's also, NNG has a course that I did last year, and it was called UX Vision and Strategy. All in all, I liked the instructors and I liked the content. I have to admit, I didn't love the teaching style. You could say, oh, Deb, that's very picky of you, wah, wah, wah. Let's just say I loved the teaching style so little that I came up with the Think Out Loud series that I now do on my channel. So I think that, yeah, to me, strategy is that combination of vision with planning, with measuring, as you're saying. I'm not coming up with anything new here. I'm just redefining an existing wheel. You're totally right. And there's definitely going to be a lot in my book about measuring success, because I think a lot of people go in wrong directions with that. And I also think that a lot of the common things you hear about demonstrating ROI are very difficult for UX, because what part of the ROI are we going to get credit for? And so you hear a lot from various people about demonstrate ROI, but I always wonder how much of that ROI will be credited to us, partially or wholly, and how much of it will be credited to someone else. So I think that we have to think more critically about how we more directly tie ourselves and things we do to that value. And I'm working on inventing some things around that too. So it's a fun time for me behind the scenes. In case y'all thought I didn't, thank you for subscribing, Srinatha. And there's another anonymous question too. Madalena says, morning, just dropping by. Have a good day. Yep, you too. I know how busy you are. So Dr. Giles, thanks for that. I'm going to, I see our next question is a two-parter. Thank you to the person for sending a follow-up. We'll get that on the list. So let's put these all together and put them on the screen, and let's talk about what just came in privately. Okay, where's my question box? Okay, this question is about heuristic evaluations. Oh, let me drop the font a bit. There we go. Dr. Debbie Levitt. I am definitely not a doctor, but thank you. Thank you. I am a bachelor's in music and an MBA. So it is Dr. Nick and eventually Dr. Darren, but unlikely to be Dr. Debbie. I do not have a PhD on my horizon. Okay, so this two-part question came in, and thank you to the person who sent it. What are your thoughts about heuristic evaluation? I recently joined a company and I took a look at their app, and the UX in general of the app is pretty bad. I was thinking of running a heuristic evaluation, but have never done it before. Any advice? Also, adding to my previous question, the designers I have in my team are not quite experienced, so I'm not sure how helpful heuristic evaluation would be since it's probably just me doing it. All great questions, because I think that a heuristic evaluation can be a good idea. I mean, you can't really go wrong with auditing and assessing your current product. Now, that doesn't necessarily solve the problems, but it can certainly highlight some of the problems and bring to light what could be going wrong. And again, you have to find gentle ways to say these. Now, you can also check out a micro lesson I did recently in the YouTube micro lessons playlist. And that one was called something like, how can we tell good and bad UX? And I have a slide about how when I assess existing products, I'm not just looking at heuristics, I'm also looking at our good old friends, the four horsemen of bad UX, also the four horsemen of bad CX, my registered trademark, since someone likes to steal it. And also Larry Marine's model that I've been calling task detractors. So check out that micro lesson because it might give you an idea of what to look at other than heuristics. Now, it also brings up the question of, let's say you create an amazing document with lots of things you've pointed out and some high-level suggestions. Who's going to fix this? Because hypothetically, you've got designers there who might not be great at this. And now the question is, who's going to fix this? Are they good enough to fix this? So I'm thinking you might end up using this type of document or assessment or evaluation to possibly go to your, I should also mention I'm just an intern, so I don't know much either. Okay, thanks for all the behind the scenes information sent in through deltacx.link/ask. And that's fine, even if you're an intern. Remember, you got the job. You know something. Do not fall into the confidence trap of like, oh, I'm just an intern. Look, you're an intern who got the job over probably 300 other interns. So do not play the I'm just a lowly worm, because you're great and you're going to become better. So I think a heuristic evaluation is a good idea. Check out the micro lesson on good and bad UX part 1. For some of the other things I look for. But, once you have this document together, Russian porn spam, boo. Nobody click on that, please. But once we are taking a look at what's going to happen next, what's the outcomes of it? And so what I was trying to say before was you might need to go to your manager and say, hey, I found a lot of things wrong with the current app. What is our process here to feed these back to someone so that they can be improved? Does this get fed into product management for prioritization? Does this get fed to a UX team or worker? Do we have a UX intern working on the easier bug fixes? So I don't know what's happening in your world, but those are some of the things that I would be asking about, because if the designers that you have are newer or not that strong, they might be overworked. They might have made these mistakes. And now you're saying, ooh, these are bad UX. So there's always something that's a little bit awkward about these types of assessments. I still think they're important, but remember, you might accidentally ruffle some feathers from people who are thinking like, well, hey, I designed that, we thought that was good. Why are you saying it's not? So you want to make sure that you've got good reasoning behind what you're saying and that it's not accidentally, I prefer this or I prefer that. We've got some comments from the chat room. Dr. Giles says, Heuristic evaluations are incredibly useful to learn about the product, document issues, and suggest ways to fix the issues and prioritize the work in a structured way. Yeah, you can absolutely, again, make high-level suggestions, and you can call out what are our highest priorities, because otherwise it can look like, here's 100 things I found wrong, and good luck making sense of them. I agree with Dr. Giles that you can certainly create your own prioritization of them, but then the question is still for your manager or team or whatever, how does this get fed back into our system, our process? How do we then feed this information back? Who do I talk to about these priorities so that these things are worked on? What will we do? So, it's kind of the old, let's roll out an oldie. We haven't seen this one in a while. Is it this one? Hey, we can have empathy for the bad experiences our users are probably having in this system. You're bringing some of the knowledge, but then what action are we taking? And it all comes down to the action. So I love the heuristic reviews and the assessment reports, and we've got more from Dr. Giles. You have evidence to support or even defend your position. You don't want to argue with opinions. You present facts and data in a systematic, if not scientific way. Again, agree. And you just want to be careful that you don't accidentally use any inflammatory language like this sucks, this is terrible, nobody will use this, or nobody will like this. You just have to keep it very professional and say, I usually do a screenshot and then I say, okay, here, I'm noticing, visibility of system status problem. Like, always tie it back to something in the heuristics or the Four Horsemen or Larry's task detractors, so that you are not making it sound like, well, I don't like this, or this could be better. You want to stay away from over general language, like it would be better for users if. You don't know that. So we can at least point out what's not going quite right. So I hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Let's see, did something else just come in through the anonymous channel? Let's take a look. No, that was it. So I'm technically caught up, but only half done here. So if you have questions, you are first on the list if something comes in. I'm going to take a quick look at some emails that are coming in just to make sure nothing's on fire. And but meanwhile, send in your questions or comments or thoughts. Okay, no, we're getting some private Slack messages, which I'll take a look at later in case you're watching me live and wondering why I'm not responding to your Slack message. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're watching live. You're watching. Oh, thank you. Thank you. My boyfriend killed the spam bot. Yay! That's what you're there for, among other things. So hello. Sorry, I'm looking at a couple of emails and some things just to make sure I'm not missing any questions. And there was a comment from my boyfriend that he killed the bot. So yeah, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. This is every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, with a special one once a month on the third Tuesday of each month, where I do this early one at 10 a.m. Italy time to help some people who are sleeping when I'm doing the other one. Please remember that here on YouTube, you can subscribe, and if you enjoy shows like this and dig how I'm trying to help people, find 3 people and tell them about it. I bet you know 3 UX newbies or even UX leaders who might enjoy a channel like this. Maybe it could even be a watch it at work kind of thing, and people get their questions answered. So please find 3 people, tell them more about the channel. And remember, all of our ad revenue is donated to charity, so I'm not trying to gain subscribers for the money. And speaking of money, thank you to the people who are donating to the channel, where I actually do keep the money. Last year we made $800, so thank you to the people who give to the channel monthly through YouTube paid subscriptions. And we've got junior, senior, mid-level, and senior low-ego action heroes who are donating between $3 and $10 a month. Totally optional, very much appreciated. And as I like to say, I use it to buy delicious cheese and chocolate chips. And last year I got $800 of delicious cheese and chocolate chips. So thank you. We've got Martin writing from LinkedIn. Let me grab this question and put it up. We can put it up quickly on the screen while I copy and paste it and put it up the usual way. And we have an anonymous question as well. So let's take a look at what Martin says. Paste. Post. Okay, here we go. Hi there, Debbie. What would be an important competency from your point of view that differentiates a good UX designer from a good UX design leader? Okay, great. More leadership questions. These are great. And by the way, everybody, you can join our Slack channel, and we've got channels just for strategy and leadership so that I can make sure I'm helping some of you who have these questions more often than just on Tuesdays. So there's that. Okay, let's put this one back up. So what's the difference between a good designer and a good leader? Well, to me, the design level is much more tactical. So the design level, I'm looking at technical excellence, critical thinking, attention to detail, and are you learning from past feedback? Those are the key ways that I tend to assess a designer, other than things like skill and proficiency and use of cognitive psychology principles and good personality. So those are the things I'm looking for. Once you're in a leadership position, yes, I want you to come from design or come from research. So because we all know we would rather have a manager who came from the work. So yes, I still want you to be able to do the work, but hopefully this is a leader or manager job where if it's a manager job, you shouldn't be doing the work. If it's team leader, you're still doing the work while moving into leadership. For a leader, that's even more of a personality thing. Can you recognize when and where and how people are struggling or could do their work better? Do you have a good enough personality to be able to approach that person and bring that issue up without saying things to them that are likely to feel hurtful? So that's the constructive side of constructive criticism. Obviously, do you have the knowledge to be able to guide them on how they can improve their craft or something about their craft? It could be presentation skills, it could be confidence, it could be any of these things. So I'm looking for, in leadership, I'm looking for someone who is who has the personality of kind of that manager. So someone who is able to help others and has the time, will make the time to help others, because many people don't. And also somebody who is functioning in a more strategic way about the project, or if you're a manager, maybe you're more strategic about the team or the department. And that to me is part of it. That's why when I roll out my phases of proficiency model, I've got strategy at the top, because the middle part is about doing our work well, doing our work with science and technique, cognitive psychology, best practices, things like that. But strategy comes with time. And so chances are you might have a team who is not yet being particularly strategic about a project. And to me, part of that strategy is about getting better at road mapping or planning where you are estimating time. I find that UX peeps are notoriously bad at estimating their time, partially because they've never had to, partially because typically someone says, I need those wireframes, and you have -2 days, go. And so we just do whatever we can in some small amount of time. So I think that as if you're a team leader or a manager, you have to start inspiring your peeps to start kind of taking better notes on how long things take them, especially when we do get the time to do things well. As a team leader or manager, I would expect you to fight possibly product managers, project managers, the people who want to give us -2 days to do a thing. And I think you're going to have to fight for the quality that comes in our work. Now, many people see that as evangelism. I have lots of hours on the YouTube channel as to why I think evangelism on its own is not the right way. But I think we do have to show, I say that we have to show that we are business intelligence and risk mitigation. And that way, hey, how much time do you want UX to spend? The less time we spend, the less quality our work is. If someone is deliberately asking for a low quality version of my work, can we please document that? Can we please put in the risk register that I was asked to do the least I could do? That way, when someone says later, gee, customers aren't happy with this, these designs might not have been very good, I blame Debbie. I go, fantastic, we can blame me all day long, but I was told to do my fastest work, not my best work. Maybe next time you'll let me do my best work. We'll see how that goes. So I know this is a bit of a wandering answer and it's not really very focused, but I hope that I'm giving you some ideas of some of the things I'm looking for in that leader. It's going to be someone who can escalate matters, someone who can be strategic, someone who makes sure that the rest of the team is set up for success and not blocked, someone who's fighting for us to get more time and more resources, someone who's fighting for UX to be done in a high quality way, which means, no, we don't want to train a product manager to interview people. Chances are they're not going to be good at it. If we need more researchers, let's fight for the budget to hire more researchers, not saying, oh, anybody can do this. Martin says, thanks. Well, thanks to you. I've got to put this on a different level so it doesn't keep disappearing. That's my setup. It's new. I'm still working on it. Iterating. Let's go to an anonymous question came in. Let me check what that one says. It's our heuristic evaluation friend again. Okay, hold on. Let's copy and paste that. Oh, heuristic evaluation intern, I'm so worried about you. Okay, let's see. Let's paste that into my thing, and here we go. Paste. And paste. Okay. Heuristic evaluation intern new friend says, I feel like I would have trouble convincing the CEO to run a heuristic evaluation as he's the one who has the final say what the UX team should do, and I was already under fire when I suggested improvements based on some pretty good sources. Also, it's kind of sad that they're currently using design thinking, and I'll try to change that. Okay, so just a warning here. First of all, your mental health comes first. If you find that this is the type of company that really doesn't want your ideas and suggestions, I eventually tell people, you might have to stop caring. Now, I know that sounds weird coming from me because I say keep fighting for things and keep fighting for things. But to me, there's a time also to give up. And I don't think you should give up yet. But I think if you were under fire for suggesting improvements, this might just be a company that doesn't want your opinion. And it's good to have an internship because it's probably your first job. So I would say stay there, do the best you can, see if there's anything you can do that'll be good work you can put in your portfolio. And after you've been there 3 or 6 months, apply for the next thing. Because I think the question is, and I think more people need to ask this when they're interviewing, what are my day-to-day duties here? Maybe another good question is, if I see improvements, are we open to hearing about that? Are we open to making those improvements? Because what you're telling me is that basically the CEO directs and or decides the UX. They've hired UX designers who might not be that strong, and they're doing design thinking, which we all know is not UX. I know some people think design thinking is user-centered design, but it's not. If design thinking were user-centered design, it would be called user-centered design. It has a different name because it's not the same thing. Now, if you do want to try to talk people out of design thinking, you can always try to play a little dumb. Sometimes I do this, believe it or not. You can always send them one of my videos and you can say, hey, I found this video about design thinking and it seems like this person is raising some interesting challenges or oppositions to design thinking. You know, it sounds like design thinking really isn't good UX work. You know, maybe, I'm all about critical thinking. Maybe we should take a look at this. And so I would say, that you can try to introduce the video and just be, make it sound like you just stumbled upon this and, could this person be right? Which can be a little softer than design thinking is wrong and everybody knows it and I'm going to tell you what to do now. You can always blame it on me. Throw me under the bus. Dr. Giles is posting, you don't need permission to do a heuristic evaluation. If you have time, just do it. That's true. But given what this person is saying about the vibe of their job, I would be worried that they just have to be set up for the fact that what they put in that thing might be ignored. So it might be something great to put in your portfolio, but something the company doesn't act on. So you just have to be prepared for the outcomes. I agree with Dr. Giles. If you have time, do it. And you can show it to them. But again, if you're already under fire for suggesting improvements, this could be an environment that is either hostile to UX being done any better, or again, they've just fallen for design thinking and they think that these simple things are the way to go. Sorry, my hair is so weird today, everybody. I feel self-conscious. Maybe if I turned on all my lights, you wouldn't see it. Again, I'm so sorry to this person, but again, an internship is a stepping stone. Stay there as long as you can. You're supposed to be learning at an internship. Learn what you can. And it sounds like you're going to be teaching them. Teach what you can. But just remember, if you cannot change these people or their ways or their processes or their whatever or their product, it's not your fault. Just make sure you know that. You didn't break it and you might not be able to fix it. I always suggest trying. I applaud the people who try, but just know if for some reason they don't change their ways, even if you make good arguments, it's not you. Promise me you'll remember that. Dr. Giles is back. We should just have him as a co-host. He says, I agree. It needs to be used as an opportunity to learn and grow, even if you don't grow into a new position at the same company. That's right. You might not stay there, and they might not keep you after your internship is over, especially if they feel like you're pushing against the tide, which is very common for UX, by the way. If you're pushing against the tide, I want you in this industry. I want you in this profession. If you are a critical thinker pushing against stuff, I want you here, and I want you to grow and learn, and I want you to be one of our seniors in 4 or 5 years. So intern, whatever you do, don't give up. You've got UX in your blood, and stick with it because you want to make things better. You want to be smart about it. You want to use the right models around it. And but you're also observant enough to notice that these people are not receptive to it. You've got to understand your audience and in some ways play to them. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And the end. Dr. Giles says, happy to be a co-host. Well, good. I will write to you after the show. We'll come up with a day for you to be a special guest on Office Hours Ask Me Anything, because you've been on the show once, but a very long time ago, and we do sometimes have special guests on the later office hours who answer the questions with me. So we'll plan it. Intern, good luck. If there's anything that you think I can do for you, or of course you want to join the Slack community, which is totally free. There's no memberships or paid things here. Please do join. There's a lot of people in similar positions on the in the Slack channel. People in their first jobs, their second jobs. There's lots of support there. And leaders as well. So it's for everybody. Yeah, good luck. And I should mention quickly for intern friend, because there's probably a lot of you out there. The very first job I had outside of college, I was basically a secretary in a small business owned by a husband and a wife. And I was sure they were doing everything wrong. I was just sure that this was the worst run business I'd ever seen at the age of 21. And I had all kinds of advice and suggestions for them, and they didn't want to take my advice because I just seemed like a kid, and I was trying to help them more strategically and help them have better relationships with their clients, and they just thought I was a weirdo, and they tried to give me more work than any human could possibly do, and eventually I was there like a year and a half, and then I quit. And I caught up with them a few years later, and they said, by the way, after you left, we replaced you with 6 people, and we tried a lot of your advice, and our business grew tremendously. We went from 4 people in one room to 20 people on 2 floors of a building, and thank you, And so it was kind of funny, but there are some of us who have these ideas, and they're good ideas, and companies don't want to listen to them, and all you can do is say, I did my best. I did my best, and I tried to help, and I tried to make things better. And for whatever reason, they weren't interested. They didn't want it. They weren't ready. So I'll do what I can while I'm here, and then I'll move on. And that might be your story too, and that's okay. Did you kill that porn spam?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Is there another one?
No, there's a second one.
Oh,
Yeah. Hi, don't click on the porn spam in YouTube. That's when you know you've made it on YouTube. I am finally a big enough streamer that I've got live porn spam links that nobody should click on. I don't know why they think people will fall for that. And considering it's the same link every time, literally the same link, I don't know why YouTube isn't smart enough to block it. UX, y'all. Why isn't YouTube blocking this? It's the same comment every time. So easy. The easiest thing an algorithm could do. All right, we got 15 more minutes. So hi, I'm Debbie Levitt. I'm here to take your questions on CX, UX, or anything else you've got cooking. You can ask your questions in the YouTube chat, the LinkedIn chat, Twitter, or anonymously at deltacx.link/ask. And by the way, if you ask a question here, not during office hours, since many of you watch this after it's happened, just know I will answer your question on the next episode of Office Hours. So I do save the questions that come in during the week, and you are the first to get your answers, which is why I already have 3 questions for tonight's episode. So yeah, send them in. Meanwhile, oh, we got an anonymous one coming in now. It comes into my email. That's why I'm a little slow to catch it. Let's see what this one says. Oh, it's not coming in yet. Here it comes. Thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about my mental health. I thought, screw it. I'll just do what they like and complete this internship and get the heck out of here. Yeah, I would probably do a combination of some of the things they want and like and some of the things that push and challenge. That's just me. This person says, I'm part of your community. I'm just asking anonymously because I've been spamming your channel across my workplace. They might be watching. I wanted to ask anonymously. No problem. That's why I've got the anonymous questions. Very often people use them to talk about their workplaces. And of course, we have no idea who you are because we know a lot of people are pushing my content at their workplaces. And so you could be absolutely anybody. But I'm happy to hear you're already part of the community. So yay. And if you're really on fire, remember that I do offer one free private coaching session to anybody who wants it. Remember, you only get one. So make sure you're using it for something that is can't be addressed here in live office hours because, hey, that's free. And these answers help other people too. But if you really need that coaching, everybody gets one free. You can sign up for it at the link at deltacx.com/links. After that, I do charge for coaching. I charge 50 American dollars a half hour, which for some people is a discount and for some people is unaffordable. So I recognize it is not for everybody and that not everybody can budget for paid coaching. But of course, that's why, as I posted on LinkedIn today, that's why I try to offer a lot of ways to get free help from me and others through the channel and through Slack. Alrighty, so let's double check if I'm missing anything that's coming up. Got all the emails. Got all the anonymouses. Let's see, but something long is coming in from Martin. Okay, long questions are welcome. So, sorry, long story. It's fine. We get a lot of long stories on this one. If you ever watch the one I do with Darren and Dr. Nick, we get lots of long stories. But since your long stories in LinkedIn, I just have to copy and paste it over to where I can put it on my screen and probably bring the font way down. So hold on. Down. Let's see. Okay. I'm probably going to, no, that's, okay, that's too small. Hold on, let me bring it back up, but I will read it out loud because this channel is mostly designed for you to not have to look at the screen. All right, Martin says, another question, if I might. I've been a UX designer for 10 years now, and lately I've been experiencing aversion with doing design work. I just don't enjoy it that much on a daily basis. I tend to put my soul and love into the things I create, perhaps a bit too much. It's taking up a lot of energy, and I think it has something to do with the long feedback loop that design projects tend to have. My direct colleagues, engineers, managers, only really seem to care about the end result. Do you have tips for sole designers at tech startups that feel alone or exhausted in general or burned out a bit as a designer? Sometimes I think about becoming a barista, a humble profession, in my opinion, because the feedback loop is so tight. Customer orders flat white, I'll make it. Transaction complete, customer tastes it, smile, done within minutes. Yeah, you are not the only person to say these things to me. There are some people who are starting to wonder, what am I doing here? Do I still want to? Thank you for the anonymous addition, intern person. But it doesn't feel good doing bad UX work. Yeah. There are people who question leaving UX. Some of them have just gone kind of across the bridge and they've become product managers or project managers or scrum masters. Some have left completely. Some people have become consultants, which is some of the same work, or teachers, or psychologists, or counselors, coaches, social workers. I think that those of us who have a need to help others are always going to be in some sort of helping others profession. So chances are, even if you became a barista, you would be the helpful barista, and things like that. I think that if the feedback loop is the problem, I would want to dig into that a little bit more. And I wonder if your company is interested in improving or changing, because these are things that can be improved or changed. And I also wonder if your feedback loop is coming from users and usability testing, or if it's coming from engineers or product managers. And then I also wonder if the feedback loop is long because you can't do the testing yourself and you have to wait for a researcher to be free, and that's a week or 2 or 3 later. So I think, to me, the main question, there's 2 questions here. I might be burnt out. What do I do about that? And how do I tighten up the feedback loop? So first, let's answer the first. So if you're burnt out, then you have to find a way to take the longest break you possibly can. If you don't love the job, then maybe you're quitting, because UX is super hot right now. People with your level of experience, I see generally, not only, but generally not having a hard time finding jobs. The downside is a lot of UX design jobs still think we're artsy, so you might have to do the UI work too, which I can't wait for that to evolve when we have design systems and UX is less artsy because we have the design system. I would think you would have a not hard time finding another job, but the question is it out of the frying pan into a giant blaze? And so you'd want to watch episode 128 from our channel and make sure that you're asking some of the right questions to try to understand the environment you're going into. If you're burned out, can you take 2 weeks off? Can you take a month off? The question to yourself is, what would it take for you to feel better? And I don't know, because when I used to have these conversations years ago with my business coach, she said, like, what do you love to do the most? And at the time, it was jump on my motorcycle, put some music into my helmet, and ride with nowhere to go, and just ride for an hour or two and come back. And she was like, okay, do more of that. And I was like, but I feel guilty about fossil fuels. And she's like, you get better gas mileage than a Prius. Go do it. So I think the question is, what can we do that will help with the burnout? Because the burnout is real. And but I don't know if 2 days off presses reset on that. You might also want to talk to your manager. Hey, I'm burnt out and I think this is why. So can you address why? Is it the pace of the work? Is it the amount of the work? Is it, are you on too many projects and you can't give any of them your attention or your best work? What is going on? Because even if you took a break, you're coming back to the same blaze. So how do we improve what's going on there so that this is better for you and future people? because maybe it is a good job and it just needs some adjustment. So, do you have a good manager? I find that most people who come to office hours and ask questions don't have a good manager, because if they had a good manager, they would be asking them these questions. But I'm happy I can be your fake manager and see how I can help. So, Martin, am I going in the right direction? Um, uh, and do I have tips for sole designers at startups that feel exhausted? You have to, again, do you have a good manager? You have to work more with other people about making sure UX can get the right amount of time to do good work. The problem is a lot of engineers think UX work just has to be done, and it doesn't matter how it gets done. It doesn't matter if it's that good or that bad. It just has to get done. Someone has to make a wireframe. Doesn't matter who does it. That shows obviously a low level of understanding of UX. So the question is, can you talk to someone about doing better work? And if they don't want you to do better work, which would take more time and be less breakneck speed, then I want that in the risk register. I want the risk register to reflect that you were asked to not do your best work. You were asked to do your fastest work, and that's not your best work, and here's a few reasons why. And I would put that in the risk register, and I would bring it up in the retro. If you're not going to the retro, you should. Hey, we've got 5 minutes left. Let's see if anybody has one last question. Martin, I hope that makes sense. I don't have the perfect advice for you. I think there's a lot of moving pieces here. I don't know if a job change would help. There's so many ugly UX jobs right now at companies who don't understand what we do. And sometimes we leave a job and the next place is no better. So that's why if we are interviewing, again, watch episode 129 about some questions you can ask during interviews to try to make sure you're going into a better environment. Obviously, if you're an intern, you just want to get a job and you'll kiss some frogs. But if you have 10 years of experience, you should be able to get a better job, in my opinion. I also sometimes recommend to people take a look at consultancies and agencies. Some of them suck and they're no better than the worst corporate job, but some of them really do care about UX and doing UX right. And very often an agency makes more money when they sell a longer project. And so there is an incentive for them to say, yeah, you know what? You're going to get a month to do that rather than, oh, you're going to get the least amount of time we could give you. So look for those better agencies and consultancies. Thank you. Helpful. I would like to respond to the things you say, but I'll DM you later. You do consultations. Yes. Happy to message with people where I can help with some messaging. Also, if you go to deltacx.com/links, you'll see my coaching link. I offer everybody one free phone call, or it's really a video. It's a Zoom call. You can record it. That's totally free. If you decide you want more private coaching with me, I do charge 50 American dollars a half hour. Martin, I didn't look you up on LinkedIn, but you said something that sounded Britishy. So, the good news is the American dollars might translate well for you. MHN Group says, I'm from India. Is it useful for startup investors? Is India useful for startup investors? I guess so. Did I miss something there? Do you mean, is UX useful for startup investors? Because if so, yes. I have an article about that. I have a few articles about that. Certainly my article on the lean startup, which was highly controversial, is one you can look at. So you can Google, it was called The Lean Startup is Outdated. So I would say take a look at that. I could swear I have other articles that speak to product market fit and things like that, or are those only in my head and they haven't been written yet? I feel like they're out there, but maybe just go. You can always go to me on Medium and just kind of scroll through all of my article titles and see if any of them jump out at you. But unfortunately, this show is wrapping up now. So MHN Groups on LinkedIn, I might not be able to answer your question before this show winds down. I will be live again in 7.5 hours doing the evening version of office hours, so people are welcome to join there. Of course, if you ask a question between now and then, I will answer it tonight, my time. 6:30 p.m. Italy is when we usually do office hours. And I hope to hear from intern person and Martin and MHN perhaps, and we'll have Giles on the show, and we will make lots of plans. But for now, I've got to get back to my regular workday, and I will see everybody at 6:30. I might be a few minutes late to my own show since I do have a 6 to 6:30 meeting, but I promise to start the show as soon as I can. So thanks, everybody. Have a super day, and I will catch you in a few hours. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are